Hi, this is Paul Humber, and it is February the 15th, 2018, and I'm here to talk to you about dinosaurs and man together. You can see a picture there of a man, maybe that's St. George and the dragon concept, whatever. But there's a lot of history about man and dragons, but that's just another name for dinosaur. Dinosaur, that word wasn't created until 1841, I think. And of course, the Bible translations, so on, had dragons and all. But a lot of people want to say, no, dragons and dinosaurs aren't the same thing, but actually they are. So there is significant evidence that man and dinosaurs inhabited the earth together about 1,000 years ago, maybe more recently than that, and of course going back to the time of Jonah and so on. Both creatures are mentioned in the book of Job and the Bible, Genesis. Not explicitly dinosaurs or dragons in Genesis, but the Lord talked about a dinosaur near the end of the book of Job. And there are written accounts about man encountering dragons or dinosaurs, and there are also visual depictions of the same. For now, however, we focus on Peru. There are tapestry from ancient tombs, there's ancient pottery, and there is a very large collection of designed stones, sometimes referred to as ecostones. And Dr. Javier Cabrera had a huge collection, and I'll tell you a little bit more about him in a little bit. Now, atheistic evolutionary critics ignore or dismiss these artifacts, for the artifacts challenge their godless theory. If they believe that dinosaurs are 65 million, man didn't even come into existence until, not even 1 million years ago. So there shouldn't be any interaction in their chronology between man and dinosaurs. But there's tremendous evidence. Now, are there any artifacts that are reproductions? Probably. But just because you have a counterfeit dollar bill or a $20 or $100 bill doesn't mean that there are no real ones. Man can be quite deceptive, and it's very possible that there are some reproductions to fool people who want to get money from buyers. Humans use all kinds of deceptive means to make money. Okay, now let's start with location and the Nazca Lines. Many of the artifacts referred to in this presentation are in the general region of the Nazca Lines in Peru. Now you can see one of them there. It looks like a hummingbird type animal, very large. It's not a small scale, and some of them I think are even larger than that. There are maybe, I don't know, close to a dozen, maybe even more, of these Nazca Lines in this area. And you can check it out if you do a computer search on Nazca Lines with images. You'll get all kinds of images. Now, why were they made? And there are different theories, but to boil it down, my guess, after reading and so on, is that they were made to appease the gods, especially the rain god. Why? Well, the region is sort of dry and needs rain for plants to grow and all that kind of thing, so maybe these pictures were used to attract attention or whatever. Man does all kinds of things. But one of the lessons that we can learn, and notice that goofy looking guy down there at the bottom center, these lines, like this hummingbird I believe, is very skillfully done on a huge scale. And they serve as a testimony that we're dealing with intelligent artists. They're not cavemen with low intelligence. Now, many of the artifacts, tapestry, design stones, and pottery have depictions of dinosaurs on them, and some even with men, and you'll get to see some of those. And you can see this pottery here with a creature that I believe is to represent a dinosaur. Now, there are many artifacts. One estimate was 11,000. Another estimate that I saw was 15,000. That's a lot of number. And it is understandable that evolutionists would want to hide or discredit these things, because they interfere. I mean, how would a person way back hundreds and thousands of years ago know what a dinosaur looked like? So in the minds of many evolutionists, these people are just making up mythological things or whatever. No, there's evidence that you'll hear here that they have seen dinosaurs, and that's why they know what they represented even better than some of the paleontologists in the 40s and 50s and 60s last century. Now, to conjecture that a band of creationists went down to Peru to manufacture fake evidence to prove a young Earth is silly. And I'm not saying, I don't know if there are any evolutionists that even think that, but the thought of producing fake ecostones, and that's a pot, but you'll get to see the stones, some of them later. It's repugnant to me, a creationist, especially since some of the carvings on the stone are pornographic. We already have plenty of evidence for human-dinosaur cohabitation, and you're welcome to get my 2 booklets, Reasons to Affirm a Young Earth, so on, put together by members of the Creation Research Society. No, there are about 110 good reasons, and most of them scientific, that would be consistent with humans and dinosaurs having lived on this earth at the same time. So we don't need fake evidence. This Peruvian evidence, however, presses down on the weight of evidence even more. Many pictures of them follow, but this Mochi, and I don't even know if I'm saying that correctly, Mochi stirrup spout pot is apparently in a Lima museum. It features red and white ceramic, and you can see the creature there. Now, some reproductions were undoubtedly, as I've already said, made by recent humans to sell, make money, and buy food and drink. Much older originals, however, were done by ancient humans even 1,000 years ago. In other words, the recent reproductions, they probably were copying off of older objects. People then, long ago, actually saw dinosaurs and carved them on stone and also put images of them on tapestries and pottery. The Peruvians must have seen dinosaurs, and it is not surprising that they would want to make some record of them. Original carvings, not reproductions, can even be sent to laboratories. How can a stone be tested for age? Recently carved stones will have no real patina in the carved grooves, but ancient ones have patina not only in the stones or on the stones, but even in the grooves of the stones. It takes a long time for patina to accumulate, and I'm going to show you these stones shortly, but here's an example of textile that was found in a tomb down there, and you've got a picture of one of the tombs. I don't know if that was found there or some other tomb, but there are a lot of tombs in the area that have been vandalized, whatever. It's a law in Peru not to be searching and so on and so forth, but you know how people are. And so, you know, some of these artifacts have come to light. And there's a sort of a vase kind of thing, and notice that the image on it is very similar to the image on the tapestry. Now here are 2 stones. You can just faintly see the dinosaur on the left one. It's a little not too clear. But notice the spine, that there is on that spine some evidence of frills or whatever you want to call them. And now the dinosaur to the right looks like a Triceratops type. And I don't know if that's meant to be a covering or something. I'm not sure, but both of those would be referred to as ecostones, and I believe likely both of them, certainly at least one of them is genuine. And so the drawings on stones and pottery show an understanding of dinosaurs that was not known by paleontologists in the 1940s or 1950s. Even today, when you see a drawing of a sauropod, for example, it will often be missing the decorative frills on its spine, but you see them on the stones and pottery. More recently, however, science has discerned that sauropods likely did have spinal decorations. In other words, if humans really saw sauropods, they would remember what they looked like, putting frills on the tails and spines. In other words, modern science is catching up with these ancient dinosaur artists. Now I've got that little thing down there, sort of cute. It doesn't have too much significance, although notice that the tail is not dragging on the ground, and often fairly recent representations of these creatures have the tail on the ground, but that's not accurate. Now, there's an article, Discovery of Dermal Spines. This is the title of the article, and it's in Geology magazine publication by Stephen A. Churkis. I'm not sure how to say that name. Discovery of dermal spines reveal a new look for sauropod dinosaurs. Again, that's the title of the article. I've got a picture of him, the author, I think, in the next slide. And the abstract of that article reads as follows. The smooth, quasi-elephantine form of the huge, long-necked sauropods is a familiar image widely repeated in both scientific and general literature. Excuse me. Recent discovery of fossilized sauropod skin impressions reveal a significantly different appearance for these dinosaurs. The fossilized skin demonstrates that a median row of spines was present over the tail, and many have continued anteriorly along the body and neck. Notice the vase there, or the pot. There are frills on that dinosaur-looking creature. Of course, it's artistic representation. It's not a photograph, whatever. But notice the mouth, the spine, the frills, and so on. Now that's a picture of the man that wrote the article. He recently died in 2015, I think, and you can see another pot down there with the dinosaur, with frills on the dinosaur. How could the stone carvers, way back when, ancient stone carvers, and or designers of pottery, have known about this median roll of spines being present over the tail unless they actually saw these? I'm quoting that phrase from the previous article, previous slide. How would they know that? If they were producing fake things and so on, wouldn't they copy the prevailing sentiment of the 1940s, 1950s? You would think so. But actually, it wasn't until 1992 that article, and they came to realize that actually these sauropod creatures did have frilly kind of things on their spine and all. So that's evidence that these people were actually copying what they're not drawing pictures of bones, they're drawing pictures of dinosaurs. So modern reproducers would not have known unless copying from an original. But Paul, don't you realize you will become a laughing stock for saying man and dinosaurs lived together? Maybe. But mockery is perhaps the main weapon of attackers. Let atheists and God-haters laugh away, but they will not be laughing forever. This is strong evidence that some humans long ago saw dinosaurs. Holding to dinosaurs being millions of years ago is bad science and false. Science also has discovered soft, flexible dinosaur tissue and dinosaur bones. Such would be impossible if dinosaurs were 65 million years old. Now some of the evolutionists want to speculate or say, well, iron or heme cannot preserve the tissue. Well, it cannot preserve the tissue even for 1 million years, let alone 65 million years. Now here is an ancient tapestry with dinosaur images on it. Dr. Don Patton, and I've got a picture of him in a later slide, he wrote, "These textiles depict living dinosaurs," and you can sort of see it there, the head's on the left and the tail's on the right, depict living dinosaurs, as do their ceremonial burial stones and pottery, indicating that these awesome creatures were still alive at the time and ancient Peruvians saw them. Now take a look at this stone to the right. You can see sort of a triceratops on the right there, but notice the modern sort of depiction of the triceratops that I got off of Google has the tail drooping down, like I was saying earlier. But that's not particularly accurate. And you say, well, is that a human being on the triceratops? That's ridiculous, Paul. Well, you're going to see a picture of a man on the back of an alligator. So, come if you stay with this video. So here is an ancient stone with dinosaur carving. On page 126, Dr. Dennis Swift's book, Secrets of the Ecostones and Nazca Lines, we read of a $500,000 offer to any organization to examine one of the ecostones in the author's collection. In other words, Dennis Swift's collection. If any scientific evidence could be offered as to why the stone was fake, then they would receive the $500,000. Whew. Why doesn't an evolutionary organization take him up on that offer and show his idiocy? It's $500,000. He must have a lot of money or something. I don't know how much money. I have corresponded with Dr. Swift, but I don't know him personally, no. So he wrote in the book, the irrefutable evidence of the stones depicting dinosaurs with dermal spines, rosetta patterns, and tail sticking out while walking. Notice that dinosaur down below. The tail's not sticking out while walking. Are anatomical features that have only recently been discovered by paleontologists and are devastating to the skeptics. In other words, how would these people way back when know what a dinosaur looked like and how they walked or whatever? Now here's some ancient pottery with dinosaur depictions. There was one on the right there. There's Dr. Swift in the middle there with the tapestry. And a picture of him on the left. He wrote to me that it's referring to the pot on the right, that it was a mocha, and again I don't know how to say that word, mocha stirrup pot ceramic from the northern coast of Peru. He added that it is from about 200 to 800 AD. So right there, even 800 is 1,000 years ago or more. They made molds, so many would be made. They are always two colors, a burnt red on white. So thousands of these type artifacts. Now there's a picture of Dr. Patton on the right, and we're talking about two other men in this slide here. That's Dr. Cabrera in the middle. So let's talk a little bit about him. Who was he? Well, Dr. Don Patton wrote, quote, in the early 1830s, his father, the man in the middle, his father, found many ceremonial burial stones and in the area's numerous Peru tombs. Dr. Cabrera has continued his father's research and has collected over 11,000 of them, and they're dating roughly 500 to 1500 AD. The Italian chronicler, and there's a painting, I guess, of him on the left, Juan de Santa Cruz, I'm not going to read the rest of the name, wrote that at the time of the Peru tomb, Pachasechi, I probably botched that, many carved stones were found in the kingdom of, I'm going to skip that one too. Then the next one is difficult, which were Amanco. I've studied French and Greek and Hebrew, and of course I speak English, but I've never really studied Spanish. But for anyone that's out there that's Spanish, hola. It is noted that some of these stones were taken back to Spain. Now, this chronicler actually wrote about 1570, so you're not going to have modern people. I mean, apparently they went back to Spain, some of these stones. So there's definite history. Now, there's the tapestry, and I put white circles around two of the dinosaur-like creatures because it's not too clear. But if you look hard enough, I think you can see them. Of the over 11,000, Dr. Patton wrote, almost 1/3 of the stones depict specific types of dinosaurs. Now, I can't prove that, and so on and so forth, but I know Dr. Patton. I've corresponded with him many times. And he says you get Triceratops, we've even seen some of those, Stegosaurus, pterosaurs, and so on. Several Diplodocus, like dinosaurs, have dermal frills. Dr. Cabrera was professor of medicine and head of the department of the University of Lima. He founded Peru's largest medical university in Ica. So there's that phrase for the ecostones. He founded the Museum of Ica. He was cultural anthropologist for Ica for many years and is now retired. Dr. Cabrera has obtained test results from the University of Bonn in Germany, the University of Lima, and an engineering laboratory in Lima, all of which confirm a patina, which they say is indicative of great age. Dr. Swift has copies of the reports. We were able to acquire a beautifully piece of tapestry from the Nazca tombs, maybe I misspelled that there, with a repeating pattern that looks like dinosaurs. Dennis Swift wrote, the fact that the Cabrera collection has stones dug up in the 1950s and 60s from Peruvian tombs dating up to 2,400 years ago with Apatosaurus dinosaurs on them lends some credence to their authenticity. Now let's try to flesh this out. If the stones were a hoax, would not the artists have relied upon dinosaur books, movies, or science journals of the 1940s, 1960s vintage? Notice the picture of the brontosaurus down there with the head on it. And it looks similar to the bottom head on the left there. But that is an incorrect imagery. Actually, it looks more like the one on the top. And you can see on the right side the old head on the left and the new head, the right head. Why don't the dinosaurs on the stones have the wrong heads? If they were copying, making fake stones and everything, no. The dinosaurs on the stones are right, and science finally caught up. Dr. Swift on page 128 reported this, which seems to expose dishonesty. And there's all kinds of dishonesty, you know, the Piltdown Man, Haeckel's fake embryos and drawings and all. I mean, there's so much of it. Write to me and I'll give you a list of it. I've even written a review on Amazon about one of the books that recently came out. Anyway, quoting Swift, he ignored my observation, speaking about someone that he had met, and countered with a claim that Acerto never wrote any book about archaeology. Now, I think maybe he meant Acerto. You can see that name at the bottom of the image on the right. But anyway, continuing, he insisted repeatedly it never happened. In other words, this book report and so on never happened. And he said, I glanced up and saw a copy of Acerto's book up on the bookshelf above the director's head or desk. I reached up and pulled the book off the shelf. Is this the book you don't have? I asked. The director grabbed the book and exclaimed, Out! Out of the museum, now! You don't get the sense of this scientist, if you want to call him that, as being neutral. And again, I mentioned that maybe there's a misspelling in the book. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure, because notice the title, it starts with Ica. So that's probably the book, but I'm not 100% sure that's the book he was talking about. Anyway, continuing, notice here's another dinosaur on the left with a man, actually. That seems like he's on the back of it might be an immature, not the largest variety of dinosaurs. And but there's a man on the back of an alligator. And if you go on Google, you can see a lot of pictures of men on the backs of alligators. And that sure doesn't seem to be an immature one. But, okay, he summarized near the end of his book, page 136, the evidence as we have seen completely contradicts evolutionary theory. We have a scientific proof of ecostones having been found in tombs with dinosaurs carved on them. We have scientific evidence of pre-Columbian pottery pieces and textiles with dinosaurs on them. We have the evidence of red blood cells and tissues in T-Rex bone and so on. And of course there are many other evidences, but I'm not doing all of them. Now, if you want to check out some of my other YouTubes, there's one called Dinosaur Disguise. There's another one called Dinosaur Disguise Part 2. The first one is dealing with my effort to get a dinosaur bone that I had, carbon 14 dated, sending $500 check and so on. And they returned it. They didn't want to do it. And I was willing to pay $500. And then part 2 is my debate that I had with an evolutionist who actually said that there would be no original tissue in dinosaur bones, and that was in 2003. And since that, 2005, Mary Schweitzer came out with an article that said that she got, soft, flexible tissue. So I was right. The evolutionist was wrong. And then Dr. Colin Patterson, who was, I think, senior paleontologist at the British Museum, a very prestigious position, he gave a talk which was audio taped, and he said evolution conveys anti-knowledge. So maybe you can hear him. He's got an English accent, but I've got the print, so you can follow the words up on the screen. And then the last one there that I have, of course, I have many others. Grand Canyon is young. Maybe you want to watch that. There's much evidence that I'm not going to continue. I mean, I've got a lot of videos, and you're welcome to see it. Now, I did get some of the pictures from Dennis Swift's book. There's a copy of the front cover. Here's another ecostone there with a dinosaur at the bottom. Notice that it has the frills on the back. And it doesn't have a stunted head like, that fake picture, but, more of an elongated head, consistent with modern science that science has learned since the 1940s, 1950s, and so on. Of course, there are two other pod-type creatures, images on the left there, a dinosaur with the fringe, with the frill, and one at the bottom similar to the textile that we saw. Now, what's the point of all this? Why am I doing this? To make money? No. I want you to have confidence that the Bible is true. I'm not aware of any error in the Bible. Now, feel free to write to me if you want, if you think you know one. Evolutionary chronology is wrong. It's fiction. But many people believe it. We're brainwashed in the schools and on TV and so on. Jesus came to this earth to be the Savior. He died on the cross to atone for our wickedness. He came alive again 3 days later. What other religious leader came alive after he died 3 days prior? Jesus made you and me. In other words, he's the Creator Christ. He's coming back someday. Are you ready? Want to become a Christian? Talk to him from your heart. Pray to him. He's God. He made your ears. He made your tongue to speak. He knows language. He is called the Logos, the Word. He knows, he can understand you when you talk to him from your heart, if it's sincere. Repent of your wrongdoings. You've done many things. You say, how do I know that? All of us. The Bible says all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. All of us. You've probably disobeyed your parents. You likely have lied. You maybe have lusted after someone. You maybe have stolen. All kinds of things. You say, well, then I'm not worthy of heaven. You're right. But there is someone that can make you worthy. You say, how's that? Well, ask him to forgive you. Remember the thief on the cross? He said, Jesus, remember me. When you come in, he was confessing. He said, we deserve what we're getting. But this man hasn't done anything wrong. And so ask him to forgive you. And know that the only reason he can do that is not just because he snaps his fingers. He had to go to the cross to die for man's sin. And ask him for his righteousness. You see that cross in the middle there? That white robe. Let that white robe be a picture. You put your sin on that cross, and he gives you his perfect robe of righteousness, which is the only entrance into heaven. You get it. You can get into heaven because of Jesus' righteousness, not your own. You're a wreck, like I'm a wreck. But Jesus was not a wreck, and he is perfect, and you give him your sin, and he gives you his righteousness. It's a gift. It's received by faith. Then love him from here on out, for all eternity. Worship him from your heart. Fellowship with Christians. Read the Bible daily. Tell others of his grace to you.